The Nebraska Cornhuskers in 2026 could be looking at a very interesting season. No Dylan Raiola, but you got Dana Holgerson back, Matt Rhule at the helm once again, coming away from the contract extension last season. And Nebraska football has a good number of things to be excited about. You're entering into a new era, no more Raiola. You move on from your offensive line coach. It's going to be very interesting here. We are the Big Ten Huddle presented by FanDuel, talking Nebraska football here in the storylines going into the season. First and foremost, as we get through our preview, we'll do storylines, we'll do offense, defense, kind of most confident, least confident, and then we'll end it with our record, floor, ceiling for the team, and maybe a rough kind of prediction with where we're at for them. So, Zach, as you look at this Nebraska Cornhuskers team going into 2026, what are some of the main storylines or the main storyline that you have for them going into the season?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise, but I think the biggest one is, can Matt Rule elevate this team beyond 6-6, 7-6? Like, can they take the next step to being the Nebraska that everybody wants them to become again or return to form? That has been the journey. And I think up until last year, I think people really believed in Matt Rhule and his ability to resurrect the program. I think last year threw a bit of cold water on that because I think people were expecting 8-4, 9-3, maybe even a dark horse playoff appearance. Not that anyone on this show ever predicted that, ever. This guy right here did. This guy.
You were just
Thanks.
following Josh Pate's lead.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not bitter. But in all seriousness, I think last year was a bit of cold water on that. I think Matt Rule has to earn this fan base's trust that he is continuing to go in the right direction. That's the biggest storyline to me.
Yeah, I think there's a number of things here. Obviously, I mentioned Dylan Raiola being gone. You lose Emmett Johnson. I think there's a huge storyline there with what is it going to look like not having Emmett Johnson. He was the best player on the team last year. As much as Raiola gets the talking points and stuff like that, Emmett Johnson was the true best player on the team, and he did all that he did with maybe not as good of an offensive line and not a very well coached offensive line. We all know that. But I agree with you. I think that there's going to be a lot of like, are we still in progress mode or are we in success mode? And I think that is kind of the question Matt Rule needs to answer. He's not going anywhere. He just signed a contract extension. Nobody's talking about fire Matt Rule or anything like that. And he's taking him to back bowl games. All right, so the only problem is that last season with the easier schedule or the more favorable schedule, as I like to put it, you should have had 8 wins, I think, at the very least.
Minimum.
Yeah,
Minimum.
obviously you get injuries and stuff like that comes into play. So, we do need to have a little bit of grace there. But overall, this Nebraska fan base is only going to, be satisfied with progress for so long. You don't need to go out there and make the playoffs, but you do need to show this is a top half of the Big Ten team. And Zach, going into the season, they are picked 11th in the Big Ten in the preseason media poll. I don't think 11th in the Big Ten is good enough. I think this is a team that needs to go 8-4 or better, and it's a really tough spot for them because the schedule is much more difficult this season. We'll get to that at the end of the show, but if this team is going to go 8-4 or better this season, you look at the offense here, Zach. Who is like, what's the position group you are most confident in that you think can lead them to that 8-4 or better record?
Yeah, it's not the position group that people probably want me to say, but I do think the wide receiving core is a bit underrated. I think Quasi Gilmer is a good player coming over from UCLA. Naziah Hunter, obviously, I think we're really high on him. He returns. He was the leading receiver a year ago with 617 yards. Ja'Cory Barney is back as well, who also had a pretty good season a year ago. So you have your top two leading receivers. You have Quasi Gilmer, but this is what I'll say for a team that is known as the rough, like known as rough and rugged, run the ball, wishbone, option offense. I don't know if you want me to say wide receiver.
I'm okay with that. I look at the wide receiver group and probably feel most confident or second most confident in them. To be a contrarian and go different than you, just to have a different answer, I'll go ahead and say offensive line for me. They are the offensive line I took in our Big Ten draft, and I think they could be kind of sneakily one of the better offensive lines in the Big Ten this season. They move on from Donovan Raiola, or was that his first name? I remember his
I think it
last
was
name was
Donovan.
Raiola. Yeah, I think it was Donovan. Was brother Dylan's brother was committed at one point too. So I get the Raiola's mixed up. Forgive me. But anyway, they move on from offensive line coach Raiola, and now they have some pretty promising players here. Elijah Pritchett is back. Mabenga comes in from LSU. Justin Evans is an experienced player. I think he's going to be sneakily one of the top 5 centers in the Big Ten this season. You have some other really good centers, but I think Justin Evans can get up there in the top 5 status. And then Black and Babalade, and you got a good running back committee here too. Nobody's going to replace Emmett Johnson, but Tiki Hayes, Jamal Rhule, you got some good guys here in the backfield that can do some different things for you. And like I said, you're not going to have a like for like comparison to Emmett Johnson, but if you can get this running game going, you're going to take a lot of pressure off of Anthony Calandria's shoulders, and you're going to present a whole lot more opportunities for that wide receiver room. You also got Dana Holgerson back, so I look at this and I'm saying, okay, if the running back room is going to be good, the offensive line needs to be good, and I feel like the offensive line has some good starting points going into the season that can really help the running back room. Zach, as you look at the offense, what's the least confident position you have?
Running back.
Okay.
I think it'd be easy to say quarterback, but I actually think Calandria is a better fit for this offense than Raiola. And he has started 31 games at 2 different conferences. Started 2 years, 17 games at Virginia, 14 games at UNLV. And I think he has been very accomplished. I'm not concerned about him. I think he's actually going to do a better job than Raiola is, even though I think Raiola probably has more raw talent. I think Calandria is going to be a better fit. But running back, like Emmett Johnson was the straw that stirred the drink, and he's gone. And I see Quentin Ives, I think has potential. Mekhi Nelson, I think has potential. It's not that I think any of these guys can't be decent, but the most production you have coming back is Mekhi Nelson with 27 carries and 148 yards. That's a game's worth of carries.
Yeah.
You lost Emmett Johnson, who had close to 1,500 yards a year ago, or 1,451. You need somebody to replace him.
Yeah, I am not in disagreement with you. I think the running back room is what I am most concerned about as well. I do think they have good options, like I said, Mosey, Jamal Rhule, Tiki Hayes, guys like that I think are going to be really important to this team. But you always do need to look at it and say, okay, running back by committee, is everybody going to actually do that job? Right? Because that's a big part of it. You have one player that can do it all. You're like, okay, that's our dude. We're going to rock with this guy no matter what. And that's great because you're confident he can do it all. But can all these guys do their jobs? And then how much does it give away to the defense when you have that guy in? Because the defense knows, okay, well, if this guy's in and that guy's in, then we kind of know where they're going to go here. Tight end, I do have some questions there. Not necessarily I think they're going to be bad. It's just questions. I really like Luke Lindenmeyer, but Carter Nelson is moving over to be more of a slot type receiver. He's still going to play inline some, so I don't think he's going to be completely out of that situation. But, with Carter Nelson maybe splitting out wide more, getting into the slot position a little bit more, what does that look like behind Lindenmeyer? Like I said, I'm not saying that they're not going to be good by any means. I have some questions about what's going to go on there now that Carter Nelson has kind of, moved over into the wide receiver room a little bit more. So we'll see how it goes for him. But Nebraska, I think you got a lot of confidence in your offense this season. Certainly a number of position groups with some guys that you can trust. Moving over to the defense, Zach, this defense for Nebraska, maybe a little bit different, but you do have the defensive coordinator Rob Arich coming in, and he's bringing in his linebacker from San Diego State, Owen Chambliss, who I know people are very excited about for him to come in. This Nebraska defense, they were really good in the past last season, but as we saw in that Penn State game, you can be really good in pass defense, but if Katron Allen can just run all over you, you know, it's like, what are you going to do? So I know there was a lot of talk about schematic issues that Nebraska had last season. I don't think you're going to have those issues with Rob Arich this year. I think that he's going to be much more technical, much more getting the team together in the right spots. He has experience in it. He did a very good job at San Diego State last season. Zach, when you look at this defense and what Arich has to work with, what do you feel most confident in the defense?
Linebackers. Like, I think Owen Chambliss is a dude. Vincent Shavers, I think, is a really good player for them. You know, Jameer Khan is going to be their nickel back, but I think is going to be in that, you know, kind of in that nickel back position. So that's still back seven, more secondary. But I think their linebacking core is going to be the strongest unit on this team.
I tend to agree. I think the edge rushers have a good argument there as well. And some of these edge rushers are kind of like pseudo linebackers in a way. So you kind of look at that and there's an option there. But no, Nawarney, Linhart, Jones, Peertrack, I think is how you pronounce it. I apologize if I'm getting that wrong. Like there are good options here for your edge rusher type of guys. But like I said, I'm kind of venturing into linebacker there a little bit when I'm talking about them too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you have a lot of experience there. Like Anthony Jones has played in the Big Ten for the past couple years. Lenhard, has been on the team for a while, has some good experience. So yeah, and if I remember correctly, Arik is moving them to a 3-3-5, correct?
They were a 3-3-5 last year.
Or they were a 3-3-5, and they're switching to a 4-2-5. Is that
kinda? It's going to be pretty multiple. You might see him go from like a 3-3-5 to a 4-2-5 at times. When he was running it at San Diego State last year, it was pretty multiple. So the base defense is going to be a little confusing there for most people. Nebraska fans will know, but
I misread. I'm looking at Phil Steele's forecast here, and I read that you were switching 4-2-5 to 3-3-5, but I got it mixed up. So it seems like base will be 4-2-5, but they're going to be multiple.
Yeah. I think that's probably most confident to say 4-2-5. But like I said, some of these edge rushers are going to be kind of pseudo linebackers, kind of like what Oregon does, right? Mateo Uiagalelei, like he's listed as a linebacker, but everybody knows he plays on the defensive line the most. Tayum Tudioti, it's just interesting how defenses work. So that's why you kind of say edge, because it just kind of encompasses all for it. For me, the least confident, I'm going to say the interior of the defensive line, and it's Riley Von Poppel. He's an important returning piece. I like him. But Nebraska, they added Jasir Whittington and Boston College transfer Owen Stoudemire. I really liked Whittington in the spring game, so I have a lot of confidence that he's going to come out and be a nice piece for them this year. But these are just, a good number of new guys in this system. And when you look at that and you look at the way things went last year, it's like, okay, we need to see it. We're not saying that it's going to be bad, but I do think this is the biggest swing factor for this defense. If this Nebraska defense is going to come out and be really good and be a really good option for the offense to lean upon, then you're going to have the interior of this defensive line step up and be really good in their run defense this year.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And again, I think there is optimism that the interior can improve from a year ago. But I think we need to see it before we can say we're confident in it.
Sure. All right, let's look at the schedule here, Zach. Much more difficult schedule for Nebraska this season. To me, it's one of the top, I would say 6 or 7 hardest schedules in the Big Ten. They have a good amount of teams on here that most teams would not want to play with what they've got going on. I'm not exactly surprised that they wanted to get away from that Tennessee game with the Big Ten and how much of a gauntlet it looks like. You have Indiana, you have at Oregon, you have Ohio State, you have at Iowa, at Illinois, Washington. I mean, I said this team needs to get to 8 wins, and I stand by that, but I also look at this and say, Matt Rhule's got his work cut out for him if he wants to get to 8 wins this year. Zach, as you look at the schedule, what do you think is the ceiling for Nebraska this year?
I will hesitantly say 8-4. I don't know if you can do better than that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think 8 wins is the ceiling. You are going to get Ohio, Bowling Green, North Dakota coming out of this one. Not North Dakota State, North Dakota. You are going to get those three coming out of this. And so you look at it and you say, where are the other five? At Michigan State, Maryland, at Rutgers. There's three they should get. But I don't think those are givens. Those are three they should get. So you're at 6 wins. I,
Washington
name
at
me
home.
yeah, I
Like
mean Washington at home, maybe at Illinois if they have some of the struggles that I've been projecting a little bit this season, but I'm kind of going back on those because Brett Bielema pulls me back in every time. So I do think that's possible that they can get to 8 wins here, but and they could beat Iowa. It doesn't happen very often. You know, Kirk Ferentz has got Matt Rhule's number, but they could. It could happen. Iowa fans are going to burn
got
down
beat
my house
40
now.
to 16 a year ago.
But it was close at halftime.
And they got beat 40 to 16
I'm just saying,
with
there's a
Emmett
chance.
Johnson.
There was a chance, okay?
Emmett Johnson had like over 200 yards in that game, I think, and they still lost 40 to 16.
So, because of that opportunity, I think the ceiling here is 8-4. Their win total on FanDuel is 6.5, and they're favored to go under by -142 on that. I think that's probably about where they're going to land. But Zach, when you look at this, where's the floor for Nebraska's record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Nebraska.
I don't think it's that low. I don't think it's that low.
I do.
What?
I think it could be. I think it could be as bad as 4-8.
I thought you were going to say worse than that.
No, I think the first three.
You're projecting one Big Ten win. They're going to get the three out of conference. You think they only get one of at Michigan State, Maryland?
Well, you're saying
Rutgers?
you're saying the floor. You're saying the floor. It's not my projection. This is the floor.
I know, but I still think Nebraska's a talented enough team that I would say 5-7 is the floor.
I agree.
Okay.
But I would have said that Nebraska was talented enough to take care of business against Minnesota last year, against Penn State last year. And they didn't. Here's the thing that I am concerned about for Nebraska. You have those first three games, and then you have at Michigan State and Maryland at home. And I know we love to joke about Maryland firing Mike Locksley. But you're playing a Pat Fitzgerald coached Michigan State at Michigan State, and you are playing a Maryland team with talent. What if you go 1-1 in those games? And then you look at the rest of the schedule, there is not a gimme. And if they start to nosedive like they have in the past, like the trajectory, that has been the pattern. They get to a team, they get smoked, and then they fall apart. And look who's waiting for them in week 6, Indiana. And who's waiting for them in week 7 at Oregon. And then they've got a bye week to think about it.
Think about what you've done.
I'm just saying.
What are you doing?
Well, and then you're stewing on it, and then it's like, oh, here comes Washington with Damon Williams. Oh, let's go and play Burt. Oh, let's go to Rutgers. And Rutgers could be, that's a potential win, obviously, but even that's not a gimme. Like going to Rutgers after being decimated and demoralized. And then, by the way, you finish with Ohio State and at Iowa, who you have not beaten and even been close to the past couple years.
Yeah, please shake their hands. I don't want to
Oh, gosh.
see that again. I don't think any Nebraska fans want to see that again either. I just have a hard time saying 4-8 when I see 5 Big Ten games. I think they can win, and they have a pretty easy out of conference. I mean, this is a 3 guaranteed wins in the out of conference. I just have a hard time saying 4-8 when there's 5 Big Ten games that I think they have the opportunity to win. Now, 3 of those are on the road, and those are arguably the 3 least talented of the 5. I mean, Illinois is still more talented than Maryland, so But it's interesting. I'm gonna go 5-7 is my floor. I just can't do 4-8. I understand what you're saying, but I just can't do 4-8. If I have to go with record prediction here, I am my record prediction very rough. Don't lock me in on this. I'm going to say 6-6. I think you get the first three. I think you get three of Michigan State, Maryland, Washington, Illinois, or Rutgers.
Nebraska fans don't hate me. 5-7.
I was playing around with 5-7 quite a bit too, but I didn't think I could make the prediction what their floor is.
Yeah, I just and part of it might be I feel like I've been burned by Nebraska, but this is a legitimately hard schedule, and the line play. Like I think the offensive line will be good. I don't know how good. I'm really concerned about the interior of the defensive line. And while I think Calandria is a much better fit than Raiola, like losing Emmett Johnson, I don't know what it's going to look like. And then you're also increasing the caliber of opponent across the board. And so I think that's part of my concern. I do think they could prove us wrong, and I think they could get to 7-5 or 8-4. Like I do think that's very possible. But I think right now, based on what I have seen, based on the track record, I'm gonna say 5-7.
They get Ohio State at home. Could they sneak up on Ohio State before Ohio State plays Michigan?
It's not out of the question.
Ohio State has fallen asleep a few times before the Michigan game, especially on the road.
Well, and they fell asleep. Well, I wouldn't say they almost upset them in 2024.
Yeah, I think there were some other circumstances that were leading to that, but yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So
and
that was with a less talented Nebraska team.
Yeah.
The freshman quarterback. I mean,
so
you could argue that they win that game if they have an experienced quarterback with some of the
Yeah.
throws that Raiola missed in the end zone. There were at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Not that I think they're gonna beat Ohio State. I'll switch to 6-6. I'll switch to 6-6.
All right.
I think. Yeah, I do think they're with. I think the more I think about it, the more I think Calandria will help steady the ship.
All right, looking forward to see what the Nebraska Cornhuskers do this season. Keep it locked in the Big Ten Huddle. Going to be doing recaps, previews every single week, Sunday nights, Tuesday nights, talking through it all. And we appreciate you being here for the season preview. Check out the other season previews we have. We've got almost the entire Big Ten done at this point. We still need to get done teams like Michigan State, Northwestern, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Michigan, a few teams like that. But we're over halfway there on the Big Ten, and we'll have them all posted here as soon as we possibly can. So thanks so much for listening and watching to the Big Ten Huddle. We appreciate it. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.